Once upon a time, many years ago, humanity began to dream. From their dreams came wishes, from their wishes came hope, and from hope came the spirits. Fueled by humanity's desire to escape the harsh shackles of their reality, the spirits set off to work. No one knows how long they toiled, only that the white spirit constructed the land, and the gray spirit populated it with flora and fauna. Together, they created something beautiful, a place where people from all walks of life could congregate to create their ideal lives together. It was called Dream World.
The spirits desired to construct one more thing before they retired. Leaders. Being born of humanity's wishes, these spirits knew their tendencies, and did not want their land destroyed by their impulsiveness. It took many attempts by both Grey and White Spirit alone, their excess magic pooling onto the ground below. But eventually, the two discovered that it was only when their spells combined that their own version of a man was born. These were beings of pure magic, much like the spirits themselves. Three brothers of red, green, and blue, constructed to resemble the humans they would care for, each of them having a crest on their right hand, which were the sources of their power. The spirits told the brothers their mission, to guide humanity and to shape Dreamworld into a perfect land alongside them. They also imparted a warning that if they failed, there would be consequences, and that they will be watching their progress from beyond. With that, the spirits ascended back to the realm of nothingness, where they were born. The brothers were left alone, and the gates between the two worlds were opened. The dreamers arrived in droves. Those already in tune with the supernatural were the first to arrive. Soon after came the learned, the gifted, and the hopeless. The spirits have thus far completed their mission. Humans of all shape, size, and creed began to settle, making the dream world their new home. With the brothers as their leaders, kingdoms were soon established. The brothers were not sure what to do with the praise and reverence that the humans gave them, but fell in line to their new roles as kings regardless. Each of the kings and their kingdoms took charge of specific jobs to ensure that no one could gain more power than the other. The Red Kingdom cultivated the land and ensured an existence without famine. The Green Kingdom built shelters and shared their wealth to prevent poverty. The Blue Kingdom enforced order and kept watch over the world's most precious resource, magic.
When the spirits made their first attempts at creating man, their magic fell to the ground. There was one particular area where most of the magic collected, a pond surrounded by a dense forest. This pond was overflowing with the primordial magic of the spirits themselves, enough to be granted to others. But only the spirits could deem who was worthy of bearing these powers. To seek it out and claim it for yourself without being granted that privilege was seen as the ultimate taboo, an irredeemable crime. As certain humans gained prominence in their communities for their talents and skills, the kings would receive visions of who would be worthy of claiming the spirit's energy. The pond and the area surrounding it would become the sacred grounds that the Blue Kingdom swore to protect, a place of worship, community, and the rituals used to grant magic. It was here that the noble houses were established, each headed by those chosen individuals: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black.
Years pass. Royal and noble houses soon became royal and noble families. The first generation of humans who only knew the dream world were born. They never knew the harsh reality their parents existed in, only the luxury of the realm of dreams. They were the first to truly reap the reward of the spirit's gift to humanity.
The children of the kings were prophesied by the spirits to be able to use the same magic as their fathers. Although the sons were not born with markings on their hands, There was no denying that the same spiritual energy flowed through their veins. The spirits foretold that when they became of age, they could claim their birthright from the pond, the same way the noble leaders claimed their abilities. At this time, it was thought that only one member of each leading house at a time could harbor such a responsibility. But when the Red Prince gained his father's crest, this belief was swiftly disproven, much to the dismay of the nobles. The children of the noble families, save for one, could not understand why the spirits did not grant them the same honor as the three princes, and their elders, who had known what true hardship was from living in reality, grew more bitter over time.
Year after year, the princes all made it through the rituals and gained their magics. One would think the controversy would fade away after that, but unfortunately, the fate of one more person came into question. Unlike his brothers, the Blue King had 2 children. The youngest of the royal court was a daughter. The spirits had fallen silent by the time she came of age. No instruction was given for her. On the day of her ritual, there was no fanfare or merriment. Each family held a collective breath to see what would happen. The world was hushed as they awaited the verdict of the spirits. And she, surprising all but her family, received the family crest that day. This was the breaking point. The resent had grown far too much.
That same year, the magenta and black nobles devised a coup. On a particularly stormy night, they put their plan into action. They surrounded the Blue Kingdom's castle, overpowered their troops, and took the queen hostage. The king sent his children to hide while he dealt with the intruders, but he too became overwhelmed. The Blue King and Queen died that night. With their vendetta satiated, the nobles retreated, as the Blue Prince and Princess quietly wept. There was little that anyone could do in response. The Blue Prince, now a king, bolstered his kingdom's military presence. His sister, whose loyalty he knew would never falter, was appointed their commander. Together, they swore to not only protect the sacred pond as their father did, but to ensure the safety and integrity of their kingdom above all others. The new Blue King became a cold, feared monarch. His kingdom, once a place of togetherness and festivity, was but a husk under his rule. His army became comparable to the many militaries of reality, the first of its kind in Dreamworld, and it would be his actions that would send Dreamworld into its next era, an era of darkness. There was only one person who could melt the king's icy heart, the eldest child of the yellow nobility. She was a kind young lady who had fancied the king since childhood. Many suitors had tried to take the king's hand in marriage, but he only had eyes for her. She was his one true love.
And the world knew this, and they knew that if they were to marry, they could produce an even greater heir. And as it so happened, the eldest child of the Cyan nobles had a fascination for her too. A surprise engagement was announced, the result of an agreement between the 2 noble houses, and the Blue King became furious. That night, acting on impulse and rage, the king summoned the princess and ordered her to march any and all troops to the Cyan and Yellow houses and eliminate as many as possible. They would pay greatly for even thinking they could steal his love away. Of course, she obeyed. It is unknown how, but word quickly spread through the lands of the oncoming attack. Most folks took shelter in their homes, powerless to stop what may happen. Even the Red and Green kingdoms, who were meant to work in tandem with the Blue to ensure harmony, had no time to plan against their forces. The world was quiet once more as their insidious march advanced. The Cyan and Yellow nobles, who had received the news last, were quick to action. For the first time in decades, the gates between realms were opened. To escape the consequences barreling towards them, the Cyan nobles insisted they flee first, leaving the Yellow behind to maintain the gates. The Blue King's beloved, who was about to be dragged into reality by her betrothed, broke away and quickly fled to the dense forest. Those who were unable to find refuge in reality were faced with the Blue Army. The slaughter began. Not more than an hour into the massacre, and the young lady returned, bearing the crest of the yellow nobility. It is said that in such an act of desperation, she claimed the pond's magic by herself. This would not go without retribution. Even with this new power, she too was slain by the Blue Army.
As the princess surveyed the area and counted the bodies, she saw the corpse of her friend among them. The mission was all for naught. The Blue Army sulked home, and the princess had to face her brother. They say it rained every night for several days after. They say the spirits were displeased with the state of the world they so lovingly created. This was not the world that humanity had wished for. It was ruined. They say the rains were the tears of the spirits, for they could not contain their anguish any longer. The world was still.
The day that the storms finally cleared was the day a new scheme was completed. In the days after the incident, the Red and Green Princes, who always worked in close tandem with each other, secretly formed a pact with the children of the Black and Magenta nobles. This alliance would not have been approved by the Red and Green kings and queens, who still saw the nobles responsible for the hardships they were all facing. The Red Prince was a natural-born leader, being the oldest of the cousins, and he had an intense sense of justice. The Green Prince was a performative young man who could bolster the will of his allies through chant and song. Together, they were able to command their fellow youth with utmost efficiency.
The revolution lasted only one night. It seemed like a miracle at the time. It was a brutal battle, but in the end, the Blue King and Princess surrendered. As they looked death in the face, the princess took full responsibility for their crimes, saving her brother from execution. After a brief imprisonment, the siblings were escorted by their cousins to hastily constructed gallows early in the morning. There they stood, once the most feared people in Dreamworld, now the most dishonorable among them all. The king would be exiled for the rest of his life, but not before watching his sister's life end, right before his eyes. People wonder how the spirits allowed for all of this to happen. If they were truly all-seeing, could they not predict this outcome? Should they have opened their hearts to reality in the first place? Their motivations are unknown, for the spirits are truly above all, incomprehensible in their actions.
Oh, I can't stand another minute of this! I don't know the half of what really happened. My love, if you're still out there, I'll be home soon. I promise. I just need to figure a way out of this awful world.